Excellent. So welcome to the 2022 Allen D. Leman Swine Conference. We are delighted to have you here in person. I hope you are enjoying the conference so far. It's nice to have recovered some sense of normalcy. Thank you for the effort to be here today and join us and your ongoing support. I know the last 2 years has been a bit crazy from everybody, but it's nice to in some way try to get back to normal. So we are excited about the program ahead. We are off to a good start with the pre-conference sessions. We hope you enjoy it. The ones that you were here, we had very good content, I think. The DVM students made excellent presentations, so I hope you were able to be there as well for that. We have over, I think I just got the count now, 815 participants. So I know some of you will be trickling in as we go, so it's very nice to see that. We want to thank Beringer Ingelheim for the welcome reception and poster session yesterday, and we want to congratulate the awardees from the grants that BI offers. So thank you for joining us on the reception yesterday. I hope some of you were able to join us as well for the beer and bacon conversations with Dr. Tara Donovan. It was very fun to get to know Tara, not just from the professional side, but from the personal side as well. Thank you, Tara, for agreeing to be with us yesterday and be put on the spot. Just a couple of reminders today. We are back to have the flu clinic. We'll be right in the corner after the exhibitors. You will notice that the exhibitors now will be in the room right next to this one. And the flu clinic, I put here a chart about the number of shots they are giving at the conference. Usually it's between 220 to 263 was the highest number. So, and last year was slightly lower at 167 just because we had less people. But we want to thank Cambridge Technologies for sponsoring the clinic. We look forward to the launch as well, which is sponsored by Merck Animal Health. It's downstairs by the lobby. You probably saw the round table, so that's where we will be meeting. Make sure you stay for the dessert, okay? That's the best part of the lunch. The pork too, but the dessert as well. And in the evening, we will actually be gathering here outside to celebrate the Science in Practice awardee and the reception that is sponsored by Zoetis. So thank you, Zoetis, for that. Another reminder, some of you may not be aware, but last year we had the first Leman conference in Spanish. This year we'll do it again. It's the second conference. It's virtual, and for us it's very important. We wanted to do it in part to help develop the Spanish-speaking workforce here in the US, but also abroad. So if you have any interest, it will take place online in November. So we want to thank all of the sponsors that make the conference possible. It's a bit of an undertaking to put together this conference, and we appreciate everybody's support for making it possible. And also to our program partners, especially the National Pork Board, the Swine Health Information Center, the University of Alberta, and also the partners within the University Extension, the Diagnostic Lab, the SDC, CCAVs, and all of us at the College of Veterinary Medicine. This conference would not be possible without the magic that happens behind the scenes with Kelly Valangham and Suzanne Butler. They really make the conference possible. But I really want to thank as well to the speakers and moderators to actually help us put the conference together. Just not sharing the knowledge and experiences that you have, but also your time. And many of you donate the small stipend that we try to offer to compensate a bit some of the expenses, but many of you donated back to the program, which we invested mostly in fellowships for our students, but also other activities. So without further ado, thank you from all of us. We are very excited that you're here today. We hope that you enjoy the conference. So we will move on to the first keynote presentation. It's going to be kind of a busy first 2 hours, so we want to move on. So the first keynote, we are very excited to have the JBS team here today and learn about JBS culture of being the best. So to do that, we have Dr. Matthew Turner, who leads, please, and feel free to start setting yourself up in the stage, who leads the group at JBS, and he's the head of JBS Pork Life Operations. Dr. Turner is a graduate of North Carolina State University. You will notice I will do very short introduction just because of time, but more detailed information is in the booklet. Dr. Kyle Coble serves as the Director of Nutritional Services at JBS. He's a graduate of Oklahoma State University and holds a master and PhD from Kansas State University. We also have with us PJ Corns, who is the Director of sow production, and he has spent his career focusing on how to deliver production results, focusing on working with people, and you will see that through the presentation today. Last but not least, Dr. Erin Matson, who serves as the head of veterinary services. Dr. Matson is a graduate from the University of Minnesota and has a PhD from Iowa State University. As you think about questions, please write down this number. This is, feel free to text the questions during the presentation or after. We'll take the questions electronically. The phone is 651-492-6964. And with that, we'll see whether I put the other presentation up. Okay, we will get started. Thank you.
Thank you, Monsi. Thank you very much for the opportunity to visit with you guys this morning. As we were preparing for this, a keynote lecture that lasts an hour long is a pretty intimidating thing, so thank you very much to the rest of the JBS team for being willing to participate in this meeting. So what we're going to do today is we're going to give you a little tour of JBS culture, a look inside this largest protein company in the world, the second largest food company in the world, and what makes JBS effective in working in many, many different regions and many, many different businesses. So how we'll do that this morning, I'm going to go over a little brief history of the JBS history, the JBS values, and the JBS mission, because that's really fundamentally how JBS has been successful over the years, is through the values and the mission. And then we're going to turn it over to each one of our functional departments here represented. So Dr. Kyle Coble is going to come up, our Director of Nutrition, and talk about how he uses the values of ownership and simplicity, which are two of our seven core values, to be the best in nutritional services. Dr. Madsen's going to come up and talk about humility and humility and availability, and how he works with the veterinary team to provide service to the production system. And then PJ Corns, finally, our Director of Sow Production, is going to come up and talk about the values of determination and discipline, and how he's able to use those to improve the lives of our employees. So a little brief history about JBS. JBS was started in 1953 in West Central Brazil. JBS, some of you may know this, some of you may not, but it's actually Jose Batista Sobrino. That's where the name JBS comes from, his initials. He started his meat packing business in 1953, slaughtering 5 head of cattle per day. Very, very small, grew up very, very poor in West Central Brazil. And he developed a culture, a very strong culture in meat packing in Brazil. So from the 1950s up through the early 2000s, JBS was predominantly a Brazilian company just within Brazil. And then after 2000, expanded internationally. And I'll tell you a little story about Mr. Sobrino. I had the absolute pleasure of spending one day he was there, myself, and a translator. Of course, he speaks Portuguese primarily, very little English. I don't speak Portuguese, so we had a translator, but I had the opportunity to spend a full day with him. We flew down to Dalhart, Texas, toured a pig farm, then went to a cattle feed yard there outside Dalhart, and then went to the Cactus beef plant. And one thing that's been fortunate in my career is I've had the opportunity to spend time with people that have been very, very successful and really study some people that have been successful. And one thing that impressed me incredibly about Mr. Sobrino was he was able, even if he didn't speak the language of some of the folks at the plant, just a simple thumbs up, a smile, he could engage people at such a high level and immediately. So I look at somebody like that that's been very successful, and he's passed his culture, his values on to a lot of people across the world, for that matter, and has made a difference in the world. A couple of important timeline events that I would like to share with you around JBS's growth. So 2007, that was the year that JBS acquired Swift & Company, and with that acquisition of Swift & Company, that's how they got into the pork packing business in the U.S., the beef packing business in the U.S., and also the beef packing business in Australia. So that was a very important time point there. In 2009, as you know, JBS is actually the majority shareholder of Pilgrim's Pride Corporation. So that's the first entry into the poultry grow out and processing business in the U.S. with that controlling interest stake in Pilgrim's Pride. And then in 2015, which really starts getting into the pig side of the business from my perspective, in 2015, JBS acquired the assets of Cargill Pork. So with Cargill Pork came the Ottumwa, Iowa, and Beardstown, Illinois processing plants, and also the live production division from Cargill that supplied the pigs to those plants. And I came on board with JBS in 2016 as part of just after that acquisition. Then in 2019, there was further advancement in the pig growing business as they acquired the Tulip operation. Actually, through Pilgrim's Pride, they acquired Tulip in the UK, which has about 60,000 sows of production there in the UK. And in 2021, another addition to the swine side would be the acquisition of Rivoli, which is about 40,000 sows in Australia. So lots and lots of growth, and this is just a very small number of the acquisitions that have taken place since early 2000s. And every couple of years, more businesses are being added to this. So you think about JBS as a huge global company. That's why the mission and the values are so important, because everywhere you go in all these companies that have been acquired or integrated into the JBS system, they all speak the same language. It's the mission and the values. So in terms of global reach today, we're the #1 beef and poultry processor in North America. We're #2 in pork production in the U.S. They're the #1 beef producer in Brazil, the #1 beef producer in Australia. And if you look at all the places where we've got pigs, since this is the Leman Swine Conference, would be the U.S., Brazil, which has got about 300,000 sows today, Moy Park, or not Moy Park, but Tulip, which is Pilgrim's Pride UK, about 60,000 sows, and then 40,000 sows in Australia. So some of the brands that you'll see from JBS, you typically won't walk into a grocery store and see JBS on the label, even though we're the largest protein company in the world. These are the brands that you'll see. Swift in the U.S., if you ever see Swift branded product, very common in the U.S. The Just Bear brand is the no antibiotics ever and natural fed programs. And then you'll see the name Seara down in Brazil very commonly. A little bit about the size and scope of JBS in terms of revenue. There's really two different businesses. There's the business that's in Brazil, which accounts for about 15% of the net revenue of JBS as a global company. And then outside of Brazil is where the rest of the businesses are operated out of Greeley, Colorado. So all the businesses outside of Brazil are operated essentially under JBS USA, which is headquartered in Greeley, Colorado. And in North America, or in the U.S., about 47% of the net revenue of JBS as a company, this is where it's generated, is in the U.S. And then you can see across the world where the rest of net revenue is generated. Only 15% of it is in Brazil at this time. In terms of the global perspective, total net revenue, 72 billion US dollars, 275,000 team members worldwide, and we have production units on 5 continents. Customers, 350,000 customers in 190 different countries. And all this started from one guy in West Central Brazil in 1953. So an impressive growth over a relatively short amount of time. So we've talked about JBS as a global company, and now we're going to start digging down into the smaller subsets so you can understand where exactly JBS live pork fits. So JBS USA, we're now talking about that 85% of the revenue outside of Brazil, which is managed through the Greeley, Colorado headquarters, is JBS USA. 48.8 billion in revenue, 100,000 team members. We're actually producing from the JBS USA division 31 billion pounds of food every year. So what makes all these businesses come together? It's really the mission. It's all about the mission. And I know this room's pretty long, so I'm going to have to read this so everybody can understand it. Our mission is to be the best in all we do, completely focused on our business, ensuring the best products and services to our customers, a relationship of trust with our suppliers, profitability for our shareholders, and the opportunity of a better future for all of our team members. And there's a couple of really important parts to this mission statement that speak to me personally. The first one is to be the best in all we do. And you'll see that tagline all around JBS locations on a lot of people's emails, to be the best in all we do. When we have meetings around production, when we have meetings around KPIs, our goal is always to be the best in what we do. And this speaks specifically to every single person in the organization. So it doesn't matter what your job is. If you're a veterinarian, if you're a nutritionist, if you're a pressure washer, if you're a pig processor, if you're a pig breeder, this all speaks directly to what you can accomplish. You can be the best. And whatever your job is, you can be the best. And that's what your goal is. And then the last point of the mission statement is one that really speaks to me quite a bit. It's the opportunity of a better future for all of our team members. And for me, this is really the goal. When you talk about having a large group of team members, when you can look at each one of those team members and know that you're working every day to provide them and their families a better future, that's an awesome spot to be. And for JBS to put that on their mission statement and live up to it is tremendous. And there's a couple of points around this opportunity for a better future that I want to point out to you. 2 programs in particular that are going on since COVID-19 pandemic came through. They developed a program called Hometown Strong, and this program devoted $100 million in the U.S., this is just in the U.S., to bring strength and stability to our communities, because we saw during the COVID pandemic with food insecurity, employment insecurity, there were a lot of concerns around stability of communities, especially in rural America. So far there have been $50 million allocated to projects, and there's about 200 of those projects today that have been completed. These are things like gymnasiums, playgrounds, water parks, any number of these things that have been funded for JBS to support the communities in which they do business. So most of these investments have been around rural communities that have a processing plant, small towns, and building up that infrastructure within the community to provide that better future for our team members. Another program which is incredibly exciting is the Better Futures program. This is where JBS has provided a college education at a community college free of charge to every employee and every child dependent of employees. And it's the largest program available in rural America for education. And just to think about what this means to that mission statement about having an opportunity for a better future for all of our team members. There are a good number of people that immigrate into the U.S. either as refugee status, as TN status, or any number of ways. They move into the country, they don't have any means of really communicating. they're not integrated into the community, they don't have family here, and that opportunity to provide an education for that team member, not only that team member, but that team member's children, to give them a better opportunity for a future. That is the epitome of what giving a better future and an opportunity to somebody is. And I'm just incredibly proud of the company for supporting that. So now we've talked about JBS, we've talked about JBS USA. Now we're going to talk about JBS USA Pork. So this is actually the division that we're a part of as JBS Live Pork. So the JBS Pork unit, that would be the processing and sales and of all the pigs that are harvested in the U.S. So we're at about 19% market share today. So roughly 1 out of every 5 pork chops that are out there. I hope everybody had pork for dinner last night. There's about a 20% chance that that was some JBS pork that you were consuming last night. Producing 59 million 4-ounce servings every day. Have 11,000 team members. And here are a few more of the brands that you'll see in grocery store shelves. Swift is the most common branded product in the U.S. today. Another one that you'll see is Adaptable. I'll just point that out. Adaptable is a product that actually, it's a product line that covers multiple species. You can actually see beef product, poultry product, and pork product in that Adaptable ready-to-cook presentation in grocery stores. And Plum Rose, that would be the value-added components. So they'll take primals and develop them into specialty cuts and things of that nature, and you'll actually see that name show up in a few spots. So within North America, under pork, the pork business unit, there's the processing plants. That would be the 5 processing plants that harvest the 90,000 pigs per day. And then there's live pork, which is what the department that we're all responsible for. Within live pork today, 170,000 sows in the U.S. We market about 3.7 million pigs per year, and we provide roughly 15% of the pigs to the 5 JBS pork plants. So we're a very, very small business within the big scope of JBS, and even within the pork business, we're only providing 15% of the pigs that are delivered to the packing plants every week. So still 85% of the pigs that JBS processes in the U.S. are purchased from third-party suppliers, which would be a lot of the folks in this room. In terms of where our JBS live pork operation is, and we're getting down pretty granular now, it's a pretty diverse geography. We don't have all of our system in one tight geography. We've actually got sows all the way down in Dalhart, Texas, 55,000 sows there. We've got 40,000 sows in southern Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma, and then 80,000 sows in south central to southeast Missouri. And then we take all those pigs, mostly as wean pigs, and they're shipped up into southeast Iowa, western Illinois, and northeast Missouri to be finished out. So that's really the plan. And the design of our system, and then our market hogs then predominantly go to Beardstown, Illinois, and Ottumwa, Iowa processing plants. We do have a small footprint of production in southern Indiana as well. So we talked a little bit about the values and the mission. We talked about the mission. Well, here are the 7 values that are uniformly displayed by JBS employees as much as possible anyway. So each one of these values, we actually go through a process every year where all salaried team members are actually evaluated on their performance related to these values. And they're actually rated on this performance by their peers. So this is something that's incredibly important to the culture of JBS as you think about a global footprint, many, many, many different businesses. Every single office you go to will have those values posted. They'll have the mission statement posted. And it's not just on the wall. It's understood, it's believed, and everybody's on the same page with these values and they subscribe to them. And I tell people all the time when I'm talking about prospective employees, if these values don't resonate with you, it's going to be tough. It's a tough place to work if you don't subscribe to those values. But if you do, and if you really live those values, the culture is incredible, and it's a fun place to work. So now we're going to turn it over to Dr. Kyle Coble, who's going to talk about how he uses some of these values to make good